last lesson, it was lesson 5. The word chumash, which is 5, also means to be armed and equipped. So I was trying to use the understanding of Moshe pondering his life, thinking that he was in distress, that he was out of sync, out of phase, not knowing his life was being wasted, hadn't lived up to his potential, had missed the opportunity, phantom hypotenuse, 40 years this way, 40 years that way, what am I doing? And all of a sudden, there it is. The word Cohen can be read, I mean, it's just the word priest, but it can be read as the one who heard gladly the truth. Yes, behold, it's pleasing. So the job of the Cohen is to make reality, truth, comprehensible, understandable, and practical, so that those who are listening can apply it to their life and find success, find healing, find their finances work, their prayers are answered, they get along with their family. You know, I mean, their boss lets them have the time off to go to the Moedim if they need to, because they're such productive workers and such a great attitude to be with that it's like he'll do anything to keep them, because it's so hard to find other people to work. You know, and we have this kind of almost a desperate mentality, like, oh gosh, we can't miss a day because he'll fire us. It's like, just talking to the guy this morning here, and he can't seem to find good help. Everywhere I go, I find people saying the same thing. If they can't find good help, if you're a responsible worker with integrity, I would have to imagine that your employer would value you enough that you said, look, I got to take off for the Moedim. It's like, whatever it takes, go. I keep working for me. I mean, I'm thinking that that's the upshot of us doing this stuff, is so that we become valuable to the people in association with us. It talks about how one day someplace in the scripture, in the Old Testament somewhere, I couldn't tell you exactly offhand, I'd have to look it up, but how once Yahuwah's favor turns on his people, the very people that used to say to Israel, lay down, I want to walk on you, will actually be coming and bowing down and saying, there's anything we can do for you. Can we carry you? You want to go to the land here, we'll carry you, we'll conduct you, we'll buy your airfare to go to, whatever it takes. Just, there's a verse where Yahuwah is speaking to Abraham, and he says, paraphrased, whoever wants to bless himself will bless himself through you or in you. What does that mean? The word Baruch is blessing, or bend the knee, and a friend of mine was saying that there's a way to read that word, that's a little bit different matter, it's off of this topic, but it's like riding. Somebody has to ride on Abraham. Is it stepping on him, walking on him? Well, one way to read that is that Yahweh says, tell you how this is going to work. The blessing comes through you. And if there's somebody that wants to get blessed, he better bless you. So if imagine what would happen if somehow, one way or another, people that own big businesses realize that unless they bless a child of Abraham, their business is going to flounder. How do you do that? Well, it's like training a rat. You know, one of the earliest experiments, you take Psychology 101, and they tell you about this box where they put a rat in there and there's a bar, and if the rat looks at the bar, a piece of food rolls out. He doesn't necessarily make any association with why the food rolled out, but he's looking around, and every time he looks over into this corner, food rolls out. He pretty soon learns, hey, if I look in this corner, food. But then you stop the food until he walks over in that direction. If he steps in that direction, food rolls out. And then he has to bump the bar. Food rolls out. And then he has to press it. And then if you give them what's called a variable interval reinforcement, it's not every 5 pushes, but he never knows whether it's 5 pushes or 100 pushes, but he knows that he has, and that rat will just stay there for the rest of his life, cranking on that bar to get the food come out. And psychologists have determined that's the way to program. So that's what they do. So it looks like Yahweh's going to do the same thing with the kings, the wealthy people, the employers of the earth, that they're going to have to find a son of Abraham. And Yeshua said, it's not that you're of his genetic DNA, posterity, offspring. Do the things Abraham did. That's what Yeshua was saying to the rabbis. You have to do what Abraham did from his heart, believing and putting into practice. So when people find out that, hey, if you be kind to or bless someone who's walking in the Torah, your business will thrive, they're going to want to hire you and to have you as part of their business so that their business will thrive. How are they going to find that? Well, circumstances of positive and negative reinforcement. That's just the science of the study of how the mind assesses how the world's mechanics are built. So there's forces at play that are beyond just the obvious. Gravity makes water flow downhill, but when you bless a child of Abraham, your business prospers. Where did that come from? Yahweh commanded it. So it's all how you interpret that verse. Those who want to get blessed are going to realize that if they bless a son of Abraham, then they get blessed. And if they curse a son of Abraham, they get the curse. And they, like pressing the bar, they'll learn that that's the way that it's a very tight correlation. So how do you put this stuff into practical use? The people of the world who are not, you might say, privy to this information, has to find somebody who is a son of Abraham, a child of Abraham, B'nai Israel, and hope that they can ride along in his wake, as it were. Because the blessings have to come through B'nai Israel. That's the way it's set up. But I never heard that taught in the church. And from what I know of the Jews, they've been so beat up by so many people for all the years, all through time, that they just say, look, hey, you guys want to be deluded, you want to be deceived, you want to make up your own rules, do it over there, see you later. There was a guy named Rabbi Simcha Perlmutter who talked about that. He lived in the Judean wilderness for 30 years. Felt like maybe he was wasting his life, just kind of an idiot, just some old guy living out in the desert. And he says, but we know there has to be a voice crying in the wilderness. Maybe I'm that voice. He died somewhere in the late 80s, I think. But there's a video of him and says, you know, we Jews, we know the name of the Messiah. He's in all our writings. The one who comes from Yah, who will save. That is Yahshua. I mean, but he says we don't talk about it to the Christians because when it first started, meaning a couple thousand years ago, and the Christians started spinning out, and this is his testimony, that the Jews were trying to hold the line to the correct interpretation of what we're supposed to be doing, the Christians just turned around and started killing the Jews. So they said, fine, shut up, get out of here. You stick to yourselves, we'll stick to ourselves, and then there's been intermittent conflicts, engagements throughout time, weaving in and out of the Inquisition and the Holocaust. But he says, he didn't hate the Christians, but they're two contrary worldviews, they're two contrary perspectives of what the Scriptures are even about. And the two can't cohabit in terms of doctrines, but they can certainly choose to get along, just like these guys can have a different calendar than those guys, and we can still get along. Just don't talk about it. Right? Yeah. Just a joke.
Oh, it's real.
No, it's fine. The point is, what are we supposed to be doing? How do we make this practical? How do we apply what he's teaching us? Is it the phrase Torah terrorist? Does it become like I'm gonna force everybody else to do it the way I see it? To keep the calendar, to keep the shape of the earth, to keep the how many oxen are you really allowed to keep? What oxen? What are the rules? What's the stuff that matters? What matters? Okay, so I'm trying to encourage people to regard ancient Hebrew. So I'll tell you later what script this is. But people have asked for a practical experience of how do you do this stuff. So that's what this is. Couple heads shaking. Okay, this is hopefully will show you something. Now, it would be helpful to have participation of other people, but I don't know how many people here know how much. So, if you'd like to participate, speak loud enough to record on the camera if you would, okay? So, this is what I was suggesting to some people to do. For whatever reason, I use red for paleo. Not anything in particular, other than the fact that in the KJV, the red letter edition, all the words of Christ are in red. They stand out as being significant. So, I started writing the paleo letters in red because those are his words. So, when I'm writing in my books, unless I can't find a red pen, I'll always write the paleo in red, and then the other colors for just determining what the words mean. That way the red letters stand out. That's just nothing sacred. It's, well, it is. It's kadosh. It's set apart, sacred. Trying to make it jump out at you. So that's all I'm doing. So there's a couple different mechanisms that we'll hopefully talk about. But one thing right off the bat is that these might look all like strange things that you don't understand. So one way you can do here, I'll reference this chart here. This is online, if anybody wants to look at it. On the top is the English, and then here's the Greek, and then here's the Paleo letters. And here's the modern Hebrew. And they're held in order by the colors.
Hold it up for the camera for a minute. There.
The PDF file is at eriktology.net, E-R-I-K, Tology.net. You can have it for free. You have to go get it printed. Just so people know, how much did this cost to get printed approximately? Like $50 or something, roughly? Anyway, she took the PDF file and went to a printer, right? You could be anywhere and get that done. So this is the Aleph in modern Hebrew, this is the Aleph in the Paleo, the Aleph in the Dead Sea Scroll font, Alpha in Greek, A in English. So if you wanted to just practice, what I would suggest is find a text and just, well, if you don't have it in Paleo, you can go to that same Eriktology site and you have the, if you punch under Study Resources and then go to the Eriktology workbook, you'll find the entire Bible written like this, spaces between the lines, red letters, so that you can do this. You can download it for free. It's online. So, one thing that I would really suggest doing is taking another color and write in the modern Hebrew. That way, because all the texts are written in modern Hebrew, other than that Paleo Hebrew Bible that's online, you have to recognize the modern Hebrew if you want to get anywhere. So, just as an exercise, you can go through and go, okay, now maybe you don't know, but then if you have a little, like a cheat sheet, right? I've seen some people print them out. They're just little cards where they have the modern and the Paleo and the picture letter and maybe the number value. In fact, didn't you just have one, Josh? Was that you that had it? No, Charlie. Charlie had it. He's not here. Okay, never mind. I'm just saying he just wrote it up on a piece of paper. The number, the modern, the Paleo, the meaning, simple. And if you write it yourself instead of buying one, I mean, Jeff Benner gives those out. I have them actually online in the Shields Project. You'll see something similar to that. But the point is, do it yourself, and your mind and hand is then exercising this connection. Right? So anyway, if you were to write these letters, there's the Sheen, Aleph, Vav, Sheen, backwards. What am I doing here? That's backwards. Sorry. Ayin, Resh, Yod, and this is Mem Sofit, so it's got the closed bottom. Just so you know, a regular Mem would be looking like that. When Mem is at the end of the word, that's what it looks like. But even if you didn't know that, it doesn't matter so much. Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yod, Kaf, another Mem, so feet, Vav, Hey, Nun, Shin, Aleph, Vav. Do you want me to do the whole thing so you can write down, or do you
I'm
want it to
copying
go
it.
on? Huh?
I'm copying it.
You're copying it, so I want me to continue?
Please.
Okay. Pei, Tav, Het, Yod, Ayin, Vav, Lamed, Mem, Vav, Yod, Bet, Vav, Aleph, Mem, Lamed. This is a Kaf Sofit. So a regular Kaf is that shape, and the Kaf Sofit drops down below the line, kind of like what we would draw a capital letter. Hey, Kaf, Bet, Vav, Dalet. And then in the Stones Tanakh, there's a colon at the end of a verse, and they put letters out here, like if this was the end of verse 3, and say verse 4 started here with XYZ, some other word, if this was verse 4, in the English Bibles, they'll put the 4 typically right next to the verse, but in the Stones Tanakh, they put the letter Dalet out here, and you have to know that that letter is number 4, and it picks up after the colon.
Okay.
Once you understand that that's just what that publisher does, then it's like, oh, okay, now you just have to know how to read the letters that are out here, the letters being numbers. Otherwise, it's totally confusing. What in the heck are those letters floating around, and what do they mean? But that's just the publisher's preference. Okay, down here, Mem, Yod, Hey, Vav, Aleph, Zion, Hey, Mem, Lamed, Kaf Sofit, Hey, Kaf, Bet, Vav, Dalet, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey, Zadi, Bet, Aleph, Vav, Tav, Hey, Vav, Aleph, Mem, Lamed, Kaf Sofit, Hey, Kaf, Bet, Vav, Dalet, Samik, Lamed, Hey. End of verse. Okay, now,
Thank you.
just doing that is its own exercise. And if that's all you did, and it took you an hour, it's okay. Your brain, your eyeballs are laying on these letters and making this comparison, and it's like playing scales to do music. And you go, I don't want to play scales, I want to play a song. Just play the scales. And
What
once
text
you,
is this?
excuse me,
What text is this?
you're gonna answer that question at the end.
Oh.
The point is, if you practice scales in music, later on you'll find out that most every song is just a type of running the scales. upwards or backwards, and they put them together in fragments, and they make songs. So if you're practicing the scales, you are practicing the songs. But when I was a kid, I didn't realize that. So I didn't want to practice the scales. And so I never learned to play the instruments as well as I should have or wanted to. And it's like, rats, I kind of defeated my own purpose because I didn't understand the mundane, simple, step-by-step process is actually the whole process. So we were talking earlier, if someone says, I found a treasure map. Last year when I was here, it was, kind of the pirate theme sort of a thing, the three-cornered hat, all, and I said, hey, there's a treasure map. Well, what is it? It's the alphabet letters. Well, where do they lead? You have to follow the map. If you want to find the treasure, you got to follow the map. Well, how do you follow the map? Well, if you don't know the alphabetic letter sequence, you can't follow the map. So you have to follow. But then the map was drawn rather cryptically. So you have to look at this picture. I mean, there was a picture of a pig holding a boomerang. It's like, what does a pig holding a boomerang have to do with a treasure map or the alphabet? Remember the prodigal son story? He was feeding the pigs and he said, man, I wish I could eat the food these pigs are eating. Hey, I know, I should go home, go back to my father's house. The word pig means one who returns. A boomerang is one who returns. A gimel is one that goes out and returns. Hey, it's the gimel. The pig with the boomerang is a clue that it's the gimel. That's just simple. It's hidden. It's cryptic. Okay, so the point about that treasure map was, oh, it's a silly little game. Just sit there and look at the pictures and try to figure out and connect the dots. So if I say, well, look at the treasure, learn the alphabetic sequence. Learn how to count. You have a little child, learn your ABCs, put them into a little ditty. Aleph is the plan. A, B, C, D, E, F, E. Little joke. Aleph is the plan that offers purpose in his heart. Bet is the container of all he would impart. The alphabet song. Anyway, the point is, learn to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the child sits there and is really diligent and learns how to say the ABCs and learns how to count. And it's like, okay, can I have the treasure now? It's like, no. You already have the treasure. What do you mean? All I did was count and learn the ABCs. Yes, now you're literate. That's an incredible treasure that a lot of people don't have. You become the treasure. And then you read in Malachi 3:16 that if you simply sit around it with your friends and discuss the things of Yahuwah, you become His greatest treasure, which actually is your greatest treasure, that of becoming His greatest treasure. For the sake of sitting around and looking at His words and talking with your friends about what they mean. And how do you do that? By looking at His words and talking to your friends about what they mean. That's the treasure map. The alphabet is the treasure map, and you become the treasure once you have figured out what the letters are, fit to the cryptic little drawings that take you from one to the next in a sequential order to get to the end. That was last year's talk, interfacing with what we're doing here. Just in case anybody missed it. So the next thing you can do, and I would suggest using a different color, and this is how Sally was reading it. Now, these are just phonetics of how she can read, so they're not necessarily letter for letter fit to actually represent. But we're going to do letter by letter fit to what to represent here. Meaning, where there's a, is there a kuf anywhere? No. Is there a het? I don't think so.
Yes.
Where's a kuf or a het?
I was looking for the het.
I don't think there is one.
At top, end of top line.
Yeah, it is.
Here's the het.
That's it.
Okay, some people write a het with a KH phonetic. I always write it with a CX. And if there had been a kuf, which is in modern Hebrew written, then I'll just write the English equivalent, which is the Q. So the reason is because sometimes people will write the kuf sound as a K, but then they'll also write the kaf as a K, and it's different, and it makes a difference. The meaning makes a difference. So if you take another color and say, this could be an S or an SH. So I'm just going to use the SH. This is an aleph which is silent. You could put parenthetically but aleph is silent. And the vav could be an O, a U, a V, or a W. You don't know. Now, in the modern Hebrew, there's various dots. Those are the vowels. Don't worry about it right now. Pretend they don't exist. Later on, you can find out why they're there and what they mean, but for now, let's just, paleo, there was no vowel point, so just pretend they don't exist. So if I put the letter value here, how would you pronounce this?
Shiv.
Okay, this could be Shev. If this was an S instead of that, it would be Seo, maybe? I'm not sure which it is. I can't tell you for sure how to pronounce that word. It might even be Shu. I don't know. So here's the thing. I'm not trying to tell you exactly how to pronounce these words, because I'll bet you as soon as I do, even if I used any one of those three, there's somebody else out there who's a Hebrew scholar, got letters after his name in the Semitic language study, who will tell me that I'm leading people astray and that don't even pay attention. So I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to say those are the English letter equivalents. And if you just say so, it's for your own meditation. It's for your own understanding. And be okay with that. Because I've heard from other very important people with letters after their name that nobody knows how these words were pronounced. It's all either following the vowel points that were added in the Middle Ages or oral tradition. And there was a little matter that I think was added in the scripture just for this type of regard concerning Sibboleth or Shibboleth. Does anybody remember that story?
Yeah.
If you said it wrong, they knew which tribe you were from, so they were going to kill you because there was a war going on. If you pronounced it like the British say the word schedule, S-H, and we in America say schedule. So if you can't say schedule, you're the enemy. Schedule. I mean, tomato, tomato, that type of a thing. So what I'm saying is, I don't know, but don't worry about it. Recognize the letters. But if you're going to then sing, like we were going to do with this, pick one and go with it. Hasana, hey, samak nun, hey. I was talking to a guy on the phone, he says it's hisne. Oh, okay, thank you. Hisne. I was just giving the ah sound, and he said it's more the eh sound. Hisne. Okay. Stand to be corrected. I don't know. But I know it's hey, samak nun, hey. So I'm trying to alleviate a certain burden of responsibility that you might feel that might intimidate you from even starting. Okay, now, here we have a S or an SH, and this is an IN actually, which can be pronounced as either an A, an E, an O, or a U, or kind of a GH sound. This is a resh, so that's an R, and this is what became the English I or Y, and that also became a J, but there is no J phonic in Hebrew, so forget the J. And then this is an M. And the way you'd pronounce that would be Sharim.
Gates?
We're not going there yet. Does everybody see that? Okay.
I-Y
Excuse me?
under Sharim.
Yes,
I.
I'm saying the yod can be pronounced as either an I or a Y in English. Okay, so this will probably get a little easier. Here's a resh, which is an R, A, S, H, we'll say Y, K, M. And how would you pronounce that?
Russian M.
Rosh, E, Kam, or something like that.
Yep.
Okay, here. Now, if it starts with the letter Vav, it's either going to be a U sound or a V sound. And I've seen it, Val pointed as either one. Now, I don't know the grammatical rules that'll tell you which of the two it should be. So you could say U hanasau, or you could say Ve hasanau. I don't know which. Either one. It's your own study. So this is the letter H. It's actually our letter E, but it's pronounced as a ha. N, S, or perhaps SH. Again, this is silent, but it's basically our letter A, and then at the end it could be a U, a V, an O, or W. So how do you pronounce that?
The ha.
Show.
Shati.
Shin Aleph Vav.
Sheen. Oh, that's an aleph.
Yeah,
Okay, Shan.
that's not a nun, that's a Vav.
Vav. Sham.
Vehan Shito.
Veha.
See?
Vehan Shito.
Vehan Shao. Shao.
Sham.
Here, I'll put it here. Vehan
Oh, that's smaller.
Shao. Let's say that. It might even be a V sound or a U sound. Vehan Shao. See, what if you blended the O and the U together? Vehan Shao, like the word bu, bu. Is it an O or a U or? Okay, then here we have, this is either a P or a PH, which is the F sound. And this is a T, and that's the H, and this is the Y or I. So how do you pronounce that?
Petaki.
Petachi. So this is a, so it's a pe, ta, I always write the CX, petachi. Okay? The IN again is like a vowel, but it's generally, just so you know, so we can run with it, this one's pronounced as an O, this is a U, L, M. So how do you pronounce that?
Olam.
Ulam.
Olam.
Ve, V, or U, Y, B, U, A.
But that first one, is that a J or a U above the B?
Oh, that would be a U or a V. Forget the
I
letter
thought
J
so.
in the language.
Yeah, I was wondering. Okay.
Remember, this aleph is basically silent. It's not even an A. Huh?
Debu. Debu.
Vebu, or bo. This is, so I'm just telling you the way they transliterate it as Ve, Ya, Vo. Because the B is pronounced as either the bet. If there's no dot, it's a V sound, and if there is a dot, it's the B sound. In Spanish, the letter B can be either a B or a V. Same thing. So, have you ever heard the phrase, who was and is to come? Haya, yeah, how it goes. But anyway, vehavo, veyavo. This is the word and is to come. That is that word. So since I already give that away, we'll write that in here. This is and, Yavo. Monty Judah has the Yavo newsletter. That's how you spell it. This is where the word comes from. Is to come. Okay, so here we have, how would you pronounce this? M. Martin Luther King. MLK.
Melik.
Melek. So here, let me show you another step as we're doing this. If you see what I just started doing, the consonants I'm writing in big capital letters. The vowels, which are just inferred, I'm writing in little letters because they're not even there. So for the sake of my comprehension, I'm going to write big letter vowels, or big letter consonants, and little letter vowels. So you'll see a few people on the internet who write like this. Hi, Pearl, Rhodey, and also Darla Wright. They do that all the time, and some people could look at that and just go, what are these guys doing to the language? This is what we're doing to the language. Because if you do this, see, if I wrote the word M-E-L-E-K, I might think, if I'm going to transpose that back into Hebrew, I might think there's 5 letters, but there's not. There's only 3. The E's aren't legitimate letters. So if I'm trying to learn the language, I don't want to do that. I'll write the M-L-K is big, so I know it's Mem Lamed Kaf, but the 2 small letters, I could have changed those and said Malak, that's okay. But if I'm really writing the word Malak, it's Mem Lamed Aleph Kaf. That would be the letters M-L-A-K, in which, reading that way, remember. And so if I'm going to write it, I'm going to write a big letter, M-L-A-K. That's a big letter. Why? Because there is an aleph in there. And a malak is an angel. It's a messenger. So that's a real word. So the difference between writing the little letters for the sake of pronunciation of vowels and making the big letters, the actual consonants, helps you realize that there's a bunch of loose stuff thrown in, which is the various pronunciations that nobody can agree on anyway. And what you're really trying to do is identify, is that a melech or a malak? Okay? Okay, then here. If this letter is at the first of the beginning, like if this is at the beginning, if the letter Vav is at the beginning, not always, but most of the time, it literally is the word and. Because the letter Vav is a nail, which means it's a connector, so it might mean but or. It's just a connector word, which is some type of connecting this to this. And it can be any one of those things. The letter He, not always, but generally, is the prefix letter that basically just means the. But as we discussed in the last time, it means, you get the reference of it meaning the because of the first 4 letters that came before it and because of the letters that come after it. And in reading the whole alphabet as a continuum, and you extract a certain individual letter, you get the concept of what's going on. You're not just reading the one letter. Different ways of seeing. So, this is the K, B, V, D, and this could be a V or an O or U, and this would be pronounced Ha, so as a prefix letter, it's almost separate from this. So, does anybody want to venture how to say that?
Kavod.
Ha Kavod, you see that?
Yeah.
Does everybody see? Is there anybody that doesn't see? Am I losing anybody? Okay, so this is Ha, Ka, and because the O is the pronunciation of the Vav, I'm going to write that as a large letter, Ha Kavod, rather than making a small O as if it was a vowel. Okay, here.
So with the and is to come, that would be Vega Vo with the big O?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the aleph is silent.
Okay.
Yeah, good catch.
Very nice. Thank you for catching.
Okay.
I wrote it small.
Here there's a mem yod, M-I. How is that pronounced?
Me.
Me. So I'm going to write that as mem y, but you'd think, well, that's my in English. So if I want, I could just say mem e, but that's not an e. So I'm going to write m-I and maybe an e in the lower. Me, me. I'm saying you have to figure out your own, what works with your own mind, because this is your own study. Okay, here that's an H, say U, and then the aleph is silent. So this is actually pronounced who. This is the Z and that hey, which would be our letter H. So how would you pronounce that?
Zeh. Zeh.
Zeh. It could be za, I'm not sure. Because that letter hey could be an ah sound or could be an a. So in modern Hebrew, if it was an ah, they might have a line under it because that's the a. If it's an a, they might have a dot or two dots. But I don't know, I'm not looking at that. So we're just going to call this za. Okay, here's an MLK. So how do you say that again? Melek. And then here's, look at, this is the same word. See that? So I'm just going to do this. Now, does anybody recognize this word?
Yahweh.
Okay, so some people don't want to write the transliteration. How do you put it into transliterators writing? But they say Adonai or Hashem. But if you'll notice, this is the Y and the H and the O, U, or V, or W, and this is another H. There's no A, D, N. It can't be Adonai.
No.
There's no SH or M, so it can't be Hashem. So if you don't want to write the word, then just spell it. Just say Yod Vav He. So you could say, okay, here, Yod, He, whether it's a Vav or Wa, He. So I was at one point just saying Yod Vav He, and the guy says, what's his name? Yod Vav He. You say Yod Vav He, Yod Vav He. And he thought I was saying his name is Yod Vav He. No, those are the four letters. Yod, He, Vav, He. But see, he's not being stupid. He doesn't know. I mean, who's supposed to know these things? Yod Vav He. Yod Vav He. But you don't have to say the name pronunciation.
The champion.
Tell ya.
Okay, here. TZ, B or V, silent A, O or U or V, and T. How would you pronounce that?
Oh.
TZ, Sev, O. Now, Martin Luther wrote a song, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God, a bulwark ever standing." Lord Tzevaoth, Sabaoth. He wrote this as Sabaoth. That's the way it appeared in the hymnals.
Right.
This Sabaoth comes from here because they turned the Zadi into an S. This is a B. This is an A. This is an O. And the Tav, instead of a T sound, they pronounce it as a TH. And the Ashkenazi pronounced the Tav as an S. And the B as a Bet as a V. So you can get Sabaoth or Savaos, Zevaot. I'm just showing you this is where the problems come from. Just so you know. And because everybody else who's the professionals disagree, how can they call you wrong? Unless you want to pick your professional, take his class and pay him some money and then get a grade from him, in which case you have to align with them or else you get a bad grade.
So is John saying different things to different people then?
Is he? Or is he saying one thing and people are just trying to figure out what he said and then what he means? So if he just let his word go forth and we're sitting there going, what did he say? And this guy said, oh, he said Lord Sabaoth. Oh, I thought he said Zavos. I thought he said Shibboleth, or no, it's Sibboleth. It's like,
How do you know?
that's what we're doing. We're going to answer that question, or Linda's going to tell you what he's saying here in just a minute. A couple more minutes. Right? Here we go. This word we've already seen again. It's here. And this word is here, so we've already done some of the work. And this word is here.
Slow down.
No, I'm saying this is the exact same word, see? Hakavod, hakavod, hakavod. Melech, melech. Melech. Hua, who. Okay, does anybody know what this letter is pronounced as? The one that looks like a backbone with ribs?
Selah.
So it's an S, and this is an L, and this is an H, so it's Selah. Okay, does anybody know what Selah means?
To pause, to think about.
Stop and think about it. Okay, so here, now I'm going to take another color for the English, and this means stop and think about that, which is to say meditate or contemplate this. Contemplate this stuff. How's that?
Ponder.
Oh, ponder. There you go.
Percolate.
Oh,
Percolate. The word is Selah. And if you look in the dictionary, what you'll see is that Selah is actually to weigh something in scales of balance. And it says to, which is essentially the exact same action as the word ayin yod nun, like the letter with the eyeball, or which is the same that fits with the day of, according to Mishkan pattern, the day of Yom Kippur. And what did he say on the day of Yom Kippur? If anyone won't ayin nun hey himself, which is humble himself, answer, respond, and so the way Karen, hi Karen, the way she thinks of that is like look at life or your own life, what comes out of your heart, nun, hey, expressed or revealed. So on the day of Yom Kippur, anybody who will not anah his soul will be cut off. Uh-oh, does that mean we can't eat anything or drink anything? Or what are we supposed to do? Anyone who will not stop and look at the life that his soul is expressing is being cut off from his people. Well, as we were talking earlier, that's the same essence of what Mem Nun is all about, right? The laver, which is made out of the bronze mirrors of the women, which is like this womb that something is growing inside and that was going to come out. And he says with the what's in your heart is what end up being expressed into words. So what I'm trying to do here is connecting themes with other stuff in the Bible. Because everything is around the same pattern. Everything is connected to everything else. It's a closed system. Everything is contained in all these letters. So the Selah is similar to Yom Kippur, is similar to Mem Nun, which happens to actually be Shavuot, which is the 50 days of counting. And the word counting is Mem Nun Hey. That means to count. That's the same as Mem Nun. Gee, what a coincidence. But also the word for counting is Samik Pei Resh, which is Sefer. So as we're Sefering, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to put these letters together, figure them out, and say, okay, what's it look like in Paleo? What's it look like in Modern? How do you sound it out in English? And now we're going to appropriate word value. And then there's one other step, which is to say, how do you wrap it all up and put it together, which Lynn is going to tell us. Okay, so let's go for a couple of easy ones first. Here, melech is a pretty common word, used 3 times here. Does anybody know what the word melech means translationally? No? King. Okay, so what else does it mean?
To rule as a verb.
Excuse me?
To rule as a verb.
To rule. You said messenger, but that's actually malak with an aleph. If there's no aleph, it's not a messenger. So I'm going to pick on you because you look at things a different way and you have a little bit of experience in this. So how would you read what this word is saying?
a container, the mem being a container or a container,
Like a pool of water, a
Yes.
bowl of water. So mem, now what she's doing here is she's doing a whole other thing. This is a whole other technique. She's taking the pictographic value. So here, let's look at this real quick before you continue. I've done this before. Somebody might recognize it as some other videos, but if you draw this letter and say, what does it look like? Somebody said, well, it looks like a broken egg, a hatched egg. Or somebody says, it looks like a tulip. Or somebody took a bite out of something. Or here's a wave of water crashing down. Or it's a womb. Or Frank Seekins says that, well, water is chaotic, it's unstable, so it's chaos. Or those are all acceptable. Those are all just pictures. Words associated with the picture. So you're choosing, just for the sake of we're running out of room, she's choosing something which finds easy to rest in her mind without being too complicated with 20 other meanings. Just so you know, if you look at this chart, here's the letter M in this kind of a pink colored, which is the letter mu in Greek, and I can sit here and run it all the way down here. That's all mem stuff. So for her to say a container, that's just one little
spot on there.
out of all the possibilities, and this chart could have been 3 times as long. I tried to keep it small enough to fit on the back of the door without tripping on it. But just to say, this is not totally exhaustive. It's just to give you the sense. Okay, so that's what she's doing with each of the 3 letters, and then she's taking the image of this container that you put stuff in to incubate. Well, it could be a refrigerator. Look, it's a container. He's putting up something in there to keep it until he's going to use it. That's a mem. That's a womb. That's an oven. That's this Coke machine. That's the fish pond. It's the washing machine. You throw your clothes in there and wait a little while and you pull them out and something's happened to them. Noon. So is it a washing machine or is it a mirror? It's also a mirror. It's made out of the mirror. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
One who teaches and learns has authority because of the teaching and learning.
Shepherd staff, authority, rod, lamed means teach and learn.
So
Mem is one who is about the action of teaching and learning.
The one who has learned and is teaching Torah.
So Kaf she appropriates as Torah. Why? If you look at the alphabetic letter sequence, the 2 middle letters, remember we had the menorah, and if I've seen people say Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, whatever. It's not necessarily, but if I say Aleph, Bet, Gimel, the 3 on here, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem. So if I say the middle are Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, remember there was that picture last time, there was 3 on each of the 6 arms and 4 in the middle. Well, the 4 in the middle were Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem. And the center 2 are Kaf and Lamed. And according to the Mishkan pattern, if Het, Tet, and Yod is the big white fence, meaning choose life to come into his kingdom, and then right inside the Mishkan is the barbecue grill, and that represents lines of instruction, which is Torah, lining up with Kaf and Lamed, the next 2 letters, then she can say, teach and learn the Torah. And as a matter of fact, in the dictionary, Lamed Kaf means go. Go, Daniel. Lakah. In fact, there's a parashah called Lekah, and it's simply Lamed Kaf, saying to Abraham, get you out, go from here, and go to the next place. But it also means that which is given to you to teach and learn. Literally, the word melech, king, can be read as, here's the thing that you were given to learn. Now, go, and the word, another way to do this, by looking in the dictionary, if I take off this prefix and arbitrarily pick some other prefix letter, a very common prefix letter is the letter Hey. So if I look under the letter Hey, Lamed Kaf, or a common prefix letter is a Tav, I could look at Tav Lamed Kaf. And guess what? This is the word HLK pronounced halakha. Does anybody know what halakha means?
The walk or the way.
The way you walk. Customs, habits, tradition. The way you actually do the walking. And this would be ta-laka, and it means the same thing. So what I'm saying is, memlaka, this is not the command to walk, but it's the actual, here is the thing that you're supposed to be walking out, which is teach and learn the ways of authority. He gave us to be His people, teaching the truth as a Cohen, because it's true, because it's right, because it has effect. It's like giving a loaded gun. This lamed is like giving a kid a loaded gun, saying, watch where you point it, because it has this powerful effect. The powerful effect is the Torah. You aim it wrong, it's going to blow up in your face, and guess what? The whole nation got sent into jail for almost 3,000 years. Now we're getting the gun back, and it's like, be careful where you point that gun. Yes?
So a king will put things in order in his kingdom, so he could be the instructor who covers chaos.
Yes. What exactly is the king's job? To see to it that the illiterate peasants who have other things that they're too busy doing are kept in control to conform to the way the standard is to walk. And some of them that maybe are a little smarter, he pays for them to go to college so that they can learn a few things, so they could be placed as overseers to keep everybody else going. But it's the king's job to not do it himself and make sure everybody else is doing it. Remember when Moshe came out of the land and he was sitting there, and he's sitting there for hours every day, and there was long lines of people, and Jethro, his father-in-law, says, what are you doing? He says, man, I got to teach them the ways of Yahweh. And he says, break it up, man. You should have leaders, 70 elders, and leaders over hundreds and 50s and 10s, and have home churches. It's not your responsibility to personally teach each individual person. That's like, it's wearing you out. That's what a king does. The king has the shepherd staff of the Torah, and his job is to, it's like when Rad was masterminding the Sukkah here. Delegating the responsibility and making sure that it was coming together as per the plan. That's the picture of Melech. King Rad. Hail.
Voluntold us. Voluntold me and Mike.
Okay, so here, we'll just say this is the way to walk. Okay, now so that's the same here and here. You see that? The way, so I'll just write down here, the way to walk. So just so you know, what we're doing here is exactly what I've spent 15 years doing, word by word, plowing through the Bible, exactly this. I'm showing you exactly the procedure. Okay, let's pick another one that's repeated many times. This one, hakavod. Does anybody know what the word kavod means?
Glory.
Glory. What else?
Honor.
Glory, honor. What else? Look in the red dictionary. It means to sweep the floor, make your bed, do the dishes. What? Sweep the floor? It means to show respect because somebody important is going to be here. Let's clean stuff up. And it means heavy. It also means liver. Like your organ. Why liver? Because the liver is the heavy organ. So this is the word actually for heavy or weighty. And the interesting thing is that when people say, oh, the glory cloud, we think of it in English mind, light, ethereal, the Shekinah glory cloud. Well, it's actually the word heavy, which is weighty, which is austere and significant. So I could even write austere here, which is to say, ooh, give it serious regard. So this then, kavod, is weighty, but it also is a word talking about my way of dealing with it. See, so that the Hebrew is not just a noun or a verb, but it's also me, my response, and how I engage it. Okay, does anybody know what this word means? This word is similar to the word found in the Ten Commandments where it says, do not take up his name in vain. This is the word translated vain. For he will not hold that person guiltless who takes his name in vain. Vain is also basically empty or worthless. And you'll see if you look in the dictionary that could be sheen aleph, or I think the word sheen vav aleph also. Now here's another interesting thing. How would you pronounce the word sheen vav aleph? Shavua. No, there's no V. It's either the V or the U. You might pronounce it Shua. The aleph is silent. There's a man who said, if you call Yeshua's name Yahshua, that phonetic Shua is this, which is worthless and empty. So now you're bringing his name to disrespect. So you shouldn't call his name Yeshua. But the problem is the way you spell Yeshua's name is not Shin Vav Aleph, but if it was a Shin Vav Ayin, that's Shua. But if you write his name Yod He Vav Shin Ayin, you might call it Yahusha. There is no Shua. This is where the trouble starts. The phonetics, blending an ayin for an aleph, somebody getting upset, thinking you're being sacrilegious, saying you better not say that. So sometimes you might see, well, I will write his name Y-H-U-S-H-O, because the ayin is the ordinal equivalent to the O, not the A. It just sounds like an A. So it's like, oh man, there you go. Yahusho. Who's Yahusho? It's Yeshua. Is it phonetic or is it placement? See the confusion? And then you get one guy hung up with this, writing it with a CH, and another guy with a CX for the cat, somebody else with an H with a dot under it, and it's like, because there's no, so it's not Chanukah, so different people write things different ways. And so I decided, I had to process all this stuff through for myself and decide to keep things at a certain uniformity. And every once in a while I'll slip into something else, so I'll call him either Yahusha with an A, which would be pronunciation, or I'll write Yahusho, which is writing, and I'll mix them both together. I don't know if you noticed that, but sometimes I'll call him Yahweh or Yahuwah, or I'm just trying to blend it up so that nobody can pin me down. It's like trying to stab a knife into a little bug who's just trying to evade the accusation. Okay, anyway, but this is to say empty. Okay, this is the word sharim. Now, didn't you say? Oh, yes.
Got a question here.
Oh, sorry.
Where does the O come from?
Because in the alphabetic letter sequence, Samic Ayin Pei, those three letters, the English has no equivalent of the S. But the O, is it Memnun, that's M and N. Samic Ayin Pei, it's like M-N-O-P. But see, in English, we extracted a few letters. So here, Mem lines up with M, N with the Nun. Samic is an S sound, but we don't have an S there. O is the I, and P is the Pei. We took out the Zadi. There's Kuf. So there's M-N-O-P-Q-R-S-T. And then in English, we took U-V-W and put that back in the sixth letter with the Vav and called that an F, even though it's shaped like a Y, and it's like, that's where things start getting kind of screwball. Okay, so Linda, you said you knew what sharim meant.
Gates.
Gates. How would you read this word? Gates, sharim. Shin, Ayin, Resh, Yod, Mem. Now, again, each individual letter. Here, let me do this first. Shin literally means teeth or fire, or that which consumes. Eyeball, or to weigh or balance. Resh is the head or an exalted man, exalted man. Yod is a hand that grabs and works. And Mem is water, or a womb, or something chaotic or unstable, like Francis says, or something that's hidden, like a refrigerator or someplace you put things in to develop and become. So I could sit here and write, Josh, this is what I was saying earlier. I'd sit here and write teeth, eye, head, hand, water. And then I'd say, well, this could be teeth or fire, and that's eye or to comprehend, comprende. This is head or exalted. This is hand that works. And this is water or incubate. And I might sit there and write 20 different meanings down. And then from there, you go here.
Pristine, perfect, purified, undefiled, understanding of that is top in the mind, the head, by the working of the incubation.
Okay, now, John, I'm going to call on you. Gold call, what did she just say? You don't have to rethink in your own words what you're reading the letters. You can, but what did she just say? How would you put that into your words? This is where translations come from.
Can you repeat what you said again?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Pure, pristine, purified, understanding, knowing, in the mind, the top knowledge by the working, through the working of the incubation. So it's like, here's the purpose, and here's where it comes out of. Does that make sense? It comes out of the incubation, where the mem is.
So now she's going to read it backwards.
So
What
in the
comes out-
incubation is the working for the knowing, and understanding, which is the same thing, knowing and understanding, but the top purpose, the top understanding that's pristine and perfect and pure.
Okay, so what'd she say?
She's resolving truth.
Say that.
Resolving truth.
Can you elaborate? Resolving truth.
Well, she's filtering out what's real. What's the top most important?
Purify through the renewing of your mind.
Okay, now I'm going to read to you, and this is, just in the interest of time, if you'd like, we can go through the whole thing, but I want to read to you what that word means. Bear in mind what she just said, the word sair. Does anybody else want to venture a guess real quick? Come on, we're just playing. Anybody want to throw something in?
What's the other one you have there underwater?
Incubate.
Incubate.
So, did you hear what I said?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. Purify the renewing of your mind.
Purify, if this is you could say that's like if you're renewed, you're at the top status of the mind, the way you think and weigh and balance things, and this is a hand that works, and the mem is the place of incubation. So see what she did? She didn't read letter by letter the way Sally did, but she condensed it, but it still is the kind of the same thing, and you said what?
Oh, purifying the truth or finding the truth.
Finding the truth. By the renewing of your mind, contemplating the pure truth, the pure what the sheen, which is his fire, his refining fire. Is something burning that's not supposed to be, or is that good?
That's fine.
Okay. Then what you're doing is finding the truth.
It's our brain. Smoke coming out of our ears. It's burning brain.
Okay, here, page
Complete back from here.
673 for anybody that has the red dictionary. This is the word cellular. Now, this is a word that has quite a few dictionary definitions, more than most words, but listen to the variety of what these three letters, Shin, Ayin, Resh, what they mean. To be hairy, hairy, long hair. To tremble, shudder, or be horrified. If you see a big hairy monster, he might make you tremble. That's the picture here. To storm or rage. Have you ever seen a tremendous thunderstorm where the rain is just coming down like dark, what would look like a dark hairy monster, just you can't even see through it. And it's just, things are shuddering, and the thunder and the lightning and the wind, same word. Stormed against, caused to storm. It also means to know. K-N-O-W. To know. Now think, we're not done yet. Why in the world would hairy, stormy, raging also be to know? Yeah?
I want to take a shot at this. Manifesting the Master's pure plan.
Is this what you're saying?
I'm going backwards.
Manifest, hand of the exalted man, indicates a master whose hand rules, understanding, knowing the balancing of scales of El Shaddai. Managing, or knowing the manifesting.
Which I just...
Now, is that something we should do? We should be manifesting the master's plan?
saying that the word would be the action of manifesting the Master's
Plan.
truth. Plan.
Okay, that's similar to what John said, similar to what Sally said.
And that is a gate of transcendence.
A gate, well, hang on, what else we got here? Storm rage, to know. The word for hair, trembling, shudder, storm or rage. Wait a minute, it also means to calculate, reckon, estimate, or measure. You got a tape measure here? It's using a tape measure. What? Using a tape measure. Using a tape measure. He quoted on the stock market. He quoted on the stock market. He estimated, set the price, set the measure. Hey, wait a minute. To determine the price, the measure, the value, to step back and look at it so you can see what something is and how it fits together, that's the exact same meaning as, does anybody know? Ayin Resh Kaf. As in Erictology. Imagine that. The word Ayin Resh Kaf means to prepare, assess, compare, evaluate, determine the value. This also means to cleave or split. To break through. It means to be horrible. Now here's where Linda's definition came in. Gate, entrance, the title page of a book, a chapter, the section of a book, or a goal in sports. So picture goalposts. You hear all these different things? It also means value, measure, set the market price, storm, tempest, hair, revaluation, horrors, scandal, abomination, to revaluate. Do you get a feeling for this? Can somebody else now summarize all those different definitions again?
How are we ever gonna know?
That's a good question. How are we ever going to know? It's to calculate something which has been devastated, stormy. It's so stormy that you can't even see. But it has to do with, this word has to do with somehow get the tape measure or figure out get the chart, determine what this means, because we need to know, like the New York Stock Exchange is one of the gates of the USA. Commodities don't come in by boat. They do that through Los Angeles or maybe some other port. But the value is set. It's a gate of this country's economy. New York Stock Exchange. That's like the New York Stock Exchange. Okay, here, we'll try to go a little faster, but I wanted to give you the experience of suffering, of trying to do this. We could spend an hour, we could spend a day. You could contemplate this for the next week. And not a moment would have been wasted. Because the pondering of each one of these words is Yahweh's stuff. You know, I keep saying, well, this is Him, this is His Word, this is His covenant, this is the Messiah. Why? Just say it one more time. How is this the Messiah? It seems scary, it seems abominable, it seems unapproachable, but yet it's
a way to the truth.
It's the way to the truth because it's manifesting the Master's plan, which is exactly what Yeshua did. In the New York Stock Exchange, we consider the value of commodities. He was considered loathsome, reproachful. He was disdained. He was polluted. They tore him up, punched holes in him, stuck him on a cross of desecration. That's actually a parallel synonym to the word spelled Het Lamed Lamed, which you'll find in Ezekiel 36:23, where he said, "You guys have made my name halal in the ayin of the nations amongst whom you've been scattered." We took his prestige and made it despicable in the understanding of our neighbors. That's what our forefathers, our countrymen, have done for the last 3,000 years. This also, when he says, anybody who lifts up his name unto vanity, remember that in the Ten Commandments? This word here is translated lift up. What you'll find if you put another prefix in front of that is the word nasa, N-A-S-A, which is nun, shin, aleph, without the vav. The vav is a suffix. That means to pick up and carry. Trying to speed ahead here. If you put prefixes and suffixes in front of these words, it'll give you different meanings. Okay, does anybody know what Rosh means? Rosh. Huh?
Eagle or enemy?
Evil. No, this is Resh Aleph Shin. Evil is Resh Ayin Shin.
Head.
How would you read it? Head. If you look in the dictionary, it means head. But it also means foundation, basis, first, most important. It's like George Washington is the head of the country. Well, now Trump is, but no. The first president. The basis, the beginning, but also the primary. So if this word means first, primary, most, top, it's head, that's the word Rosh. Okay, and here's this word, see this Nun Shin Aleph? That's the same word. So that word plays off of this word. Even though it looks like it's different, it's the same word. Do you remember this word from the other day? Does anybody remember this word? Remember we put the mem in front of it and it meant ki, patach. It means that which opens. To split open. Remember that other word that we read? This meant to cleave. So here's a little bit of Hebrew poetry. One of the meanings of this word means to cleave or split. And this word here literally means to open, So like if you're here's the ground, and you've got a plow dug in, pulled by oxen, and this side of the plow, you get this furrow which opens up here, and this side of the plow you get this furrow that, and you end up with a furrow with the dirt piled up over here. You know what I'm saying? That's the same word as the word for boker, betku fresh, which is also an ox or a plowing animal. It splits open and divides. Okay, so something which is openable, petak, and if you put the mem in front of it, that's the word for key, which we said, if you understand the Mishkan pattern, it seems to be the key to open the Aleph Bet, understanding Ayin Dalet Ayin Tav, that Yeshua is Mashiach. So if you see that Yeshua is Mashiach, apply it to the Mishkan pattern, it opens up the whole Aleph Bet to be Yahweh's plan revealed, the covenant itself. That's what's openable. Pei, the mouth, Tav, sign of the terms of the covenant, Het, offense, Yod, powerful hand, but the word Het Yod is also life. The words of the covenant are life that are hid but openable. How are they openable? Did you notice we are doing the very thing right now? We are engaged in the action of doing this word, present tense. Okay, here. Does anybody know what olam means?
Forever.
Forever.
A world.
It also can be universal or worldwide. You could say forever or always, or worldwide. It's also very similar to the word shalom in that it means healthy. And kind of full and healthy. Okay, here, vayavo is to come, the way to walk. Okay, now, does anybody know what me means? How would you read me? Mem Yod.
The working by his hand. So it's his working hand, his place of working.
Place of working. Anybody else have a different way to read this Mem Yod? We're almost done.
It means who.
It means who. So you could say, whoever wants to make it their business to put their hand to do this task. Well, hey, that's us again. We are the who that is.
The place of working.
We're sitting here putting our hand and our mind to opening up this container womb of understanding his place where he hid himself. Like the cracking open the egg. This word here is pronounced who, and it just simply means he.
Now, what did you say Vehan Show means? Did you say?
Which one, where?
Up on the top row, Vehan Show. Next to last word.
This one.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Nasa is the same exact word, Nun Shin Aleph, that we talked about here, Nasa. This is Shin Aleph, it just is missing the prefix letters. It means to lift up. It's translated vain, empty, or lift up. And what it means is you lift up something really light and easy. So this word Selah, which means to contemplate this stuff, this is part of the poetry. There were things bounce off not by rhyming but by pictures. So this word Selah, here I'll put a star here with a circle, that's the same lifting up and considering is this here, and that plays off this word here, which is Nasa. So once you see how things are bouncing around with synonyms and themes and pictures, then the last step will be to weave these things together and find out what this is really saying. Okay, so remember we talked the other day what Zah means.
This.
This, it's the seventh letter, Zion and a Hey. Both the words Zion Hey and Zion and Aleph Tav both means this. So Zion, remember, is to be adorned with weapons. So when Yeshua, the Vav man, had the crown put on him, said, this man, look it, he's got the crown, look it, we ripped him apart. This, look, this. Okay, so that's very specifically, like an exclamation point. Melech, we talked before, Kavod, Yahweh Zavot, we talked about that. He, Melech, HaKavod, stop and think about it. Okay, now we're going to put it all together. try to do it together. Lifting up, it is empty. Something got lifted up and became empty, or is considered empty. What? The true value of the Master's plan. From the very beginning, the most significant top, as he spoke to Abraham, as he spoke to Adam, as he spoke to David, as he gave our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, and lifted up, you could say, as if it was worthless, kind of lifted up and carried. It's like, yeah, we got a Bible with some stories, but whoop-de-doo, and teach them to the kids maybe. Nailed to the cross. But they're openable. There's some way to read into them. It's forever, worldwide, to restore health. The value has been forgotten and diminished. And even some consider to be like terrorist activity if you regard the Torah, trying to figure out what he said. And it is to come that the way that he gave us to walk, the way of kings, that's the job commissioned to Israel. Walk the way of the king, showing the world what it's supposed to be, which is of high regard, weighty and honorable. Whoever would put their hand to open this up, he, the man strong. This, what this? Understanding that this, look, it's Yeshua. This man, Yeshua, is the Melech of glory, the King of glory. Yod He Vav He Zavot. Well, as we said the first day, Zadi Bet is turtle, or to swell up. Zadi Bet Aleph is army. Aleph Vav Tav is a sign or symbol, and is also a letter of the alphabet. So Yahweh also means that He Vav He is to exist. And Yod means he will. It's a working hand, so he will cause to exist the swelling up, the standing, like establishing monuments and columns of every letter. Establish the letters of the alphabet, his Aleph Tav, monumentally.
Also armies, it means armies, right?
Armies. It could be translated armies. Right. We went through a couple-hour translation of what that meant the other day. He, who is this Yahweh Zavot, is the Melech HaKavod. Stop and meditate. Contemplate what? Contemplate what? The things we started that were connected. Contemplate. Go back to the beginning and consider the value of the most important stuff that he told our forefathers that was carried forward, not opened. Nobody had the key because they thought it was just a bunch of history and laws that were done away with. But instead of Yeshua, this man being the guy who did away with it, he's the guy that gave us the key if we walked according to what he said, which is the way of glory and honor. I mean, there's nothing oppressive about walking in honor. Virtuous, a heart of life emanating like the light bulb. And whoever haze, illuminating the man, Aleph, first, strong, powerful, like an ox. Whoever would put his hand to being that man, this is the way to walk. The one who will walk the road, the path of honor, Yahweh Zavot, he will, you might say, teach to him the... You could break this down. This is a picture of how would you look at Kavod? Like that. The house. No, that's cough. Excuse me. The Torah. This is a house. This is a nail, and this is a door. What else would you put in there? How would you say that?
Okay, you just did it. The Torah, the house of the Torah, that the door is connected to. Well, let's see.
Well, Yeshua said, I am the door. No one gets to
So-
the Father except through
so-
me. And he's the way back to the house of the
So
Father,
he is the-
which is what the Torah tells us to do. So for us to throw away the Torah and say, well, no, I have access to the Father's house. Jesus said I could come in.
The house of his plan, of his dream. His house.
The word house, just so you know, bet also means to be taught, trained, and domesticated. It's not just the object house. To be taught, trained, and domesticated. Hey, according to what he revealed, which is the plan to have a house of obedient children. Servants on task. Kings and priests.
Attach the Torah to the door of your house.
Attach the Torah to the door of your house. Hey, that's just like a mezuzah.
The mezuzah.
A reminder, like the blue thread. Attach the Torah to...
Thinking beyond the physical mezuzah, I'm thinking of the mental way of being. To attach the Torah to the door of your house. And what goes into your house goes through that filter. What comes out of your house goes through that filter.
The letter Kaf is a filter. It's drawn as a filter screen that you might see as a drain on the floor or a barbecue grill. It leaves stuff go through. Be careful, little eyes, what you see, and be careful, little ears, what you hear. Linda, I think, just tried to escape because she knew we were going to call on her. Hey, Linda, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, tell me where this is from. Where in Scripture? What verse is this?
I don't know. I just know who is this King of Glory?
Where is that from?
Oh, lift your eyes, O you gates.
Up, O you gates.
Lift
Lift
up,
up your heads, O
lift
you
up
gates.
your
Heads, O you gates.
your head. Here, I'll show you how they put the syntax in English. Lift up your heads, O ye gates. There's no O ye, it's just gates. But it's not only the gates, it's what we spent so much time trying to figure out. And be ye lifted up. Ye, there's no letter kaf to say ye. It's in the vav, which is a he, it, or sometimes they. And be ye lifted up. Door? Pataki is
Ancient
door?
doors.
It's that which opens. It's like, okay. And
The
he lifted up,
everlasting doors.
Everlasting doors.
Yeah.
And the King of glory shall enter in. See how they jump the words around? Who is this King of glory? Yahweh Zephot. He is the King of glory. Selah. Now, so here's the thing. Think about this. Forget what we just said. What if everything I told you was just not true? Let's go back to the English. Lift up your heads, O ye gates. Do gates have heads? What the heck is he talking
Yeah,
about?
the top and the bottom.
And be ye lifted up, you everlasting doors. You're speaking to the door and say, be lifted up. It's like one of those roll-up bins doors in a commercial.
Talking about the kingdom.
Garage door, where's the button?
He's talking about the kingdom.
He's talking about, well, he's talking about Israel. He's talking about Israel. Be
The door, the king.
Lift it up. Israel, lift up the king.
He didn't say that. He said he's speaking to the door. Lift up your heads, O you doors. Be lifted up, you gates. What I'm saying is that this verse, this chapter, Psalms 24, I had learned when I was in 4th grade. And then I started thinking about it a little while ago, 50 years later, and go, I have no idea what it's talking about. Sounds poetic, but what the heck? Look at any English translation, and I dare you to make sense of that phrase. You can add other things to it, like you just did, and then say, oh, that must be what he's talking about. You can do that. That's okay. But look at it word for word, letter for letter, and see the practice what we just did. Recognition, that's one thing. English, paleo, modern, dictionary, that's another thing. Letter by letter, weaving it together, sepharing, that's a whole nother level, and then putting the whole thing together and try to make sense that guess what? David must have said, he had this kingdom handed to him. Took a lot of effort, killed fighting against the Canaanites. He handed it to Solomon. Just handed it. As we saw in the video about when I was king last night, remember they were talking about Solomon and say, he didn't even have to fight any wars. Yahweh took all his enemies away. When he started doing stupid stuff, he brought in 3 enemies. That's another story. But Solomon didn't have to conquer anybody to get his kingdom. So David said, listen, he knew that we as a people group would blow it and lose it. But then one day, go back to the very beginning and reassess the value. Give a value. That's the whole word Eric, as in Ayin Resh Kaf. There's a value to these matters that we were never told. Go back and assess the value that from the very beginning, it's this great thing that he lifted up and told us we could look at it. It's universal health care plan. But it was dropped and lost and disregarded. But in the future coming, if we walk this way of... Here, this plays into another verse that comes to mind. Esau was chasing, hating Jacob, trying to get his blessing back. And then if you read what Yaakov said to Jacob, Jacob stole the blessing, and Esau comes running in and he goes, oh, don't you have a blessing for me too? And he says something really odd. If you look at it in English, it makes no sense. We're out of time to do that now, but we can look at it later if you want. But what he said was, my translation of what he said to Esau, he said, listen, act with integrity, and whatever yoke you think he's got on you will just fall off. Just act with integrity. Walk this way, and there's no problem. When you are aggrieved, you will get out from under his yoke, something like that. What does that even mean? The only way to know what these things mean is to open the words, and what I keep realizing is that it's talking about us. Think, ponder, meditate. Okay, we just took, what, an hour and a half pondering a couple verses of Psalms 24. And this phrase is repeated twice. I just wrote it up here once. I think verse 7 and verse 9, I think. And it's like, have you ever spent an hour and a half contemplating just one verse of Psalms 24 of something that you thought you understood because it was written in plain English? So this is the experience of, I think, doing exactly what David said to do in the very verse that we just did. Thus bringing his, could we call it a self-fulfilling prophecy sort of a thing? I think that's rather thrilling myself. I'm going to believe that everybody's just stunned. That's why there's no response.
Speechless.
Speechless. Okay, does anybody else have anything to say? Otherwise, we'll cut this off.
Our brains are smoking.
Okay. Shalom. Thank you.